to say thank you to Springboard for the Arts and the Hinge Arts Residency, and being here in Fergus Falls. I've never been here before, so this is really exciting to come here. One of the things that I love the most is the conversations I've had with people about how much they love living here. And so that's been really inspiring. And thank you. I'll be staying in a studio. I am staying in a studio apartment here, and it's really fun because the previous artists that have been there, they've left little pieces of art around the apartment. So it's like a little scavenger hunt as I'm going through the apartment and finding different things that artists have left. I'm already thinking about what I might leave behind. So that's really fun, and I'm enjoying the studio space that I have. I'm in the basement of the Kaddatz and have my own studio space that I'm working in. And that's really great, and I've been enjoying the Y here and having friends come to visit. I enjoyed the live drawing class. I'd recommend it to you. I'm not a drawer, and I thought, oh, I'll just go there for a little bit and then leave, but I actually stayed the whole hour and a half, and I sort of liked these figures that came out of my paper and pens. So that was fun. I'm just really, really grateful to be here. So what I'm here to do is, well, you added to say a little bit about our career as an artist. So I've always done art. I started basket weaving in the 90s, and that is what my lecture is about next Tuesday, is about my basket weaving, and then I quit for a bunch of years, and then went back to ask, why did I quit? Because I loved this so much. And it actually had to do, the title of the lecture is Reclaiming Basketry, Working Through Stigma to Reach Creative Potential. And so I started doing some research into some of the things related to it, and that's what the lecture is about next Tuesday. So I came back to doing basketry in late 2016. I joined an arts collective that was based on my basketry. It's called Avivo Artworks. And I've gotten a lot of support in that collective, and my career has just completely taken off. And so I have a piece that's touring the US right now. I got the Hinge Arts Residency, the Minnesota History Center is following me as an artist, and who knows what from here. So what I propose to do here, and I say proposed because I'm still not sure I'll be successful with it, but I've been moving traditional basketry into sculptural basketry, more into visual art. And there's a technique, I really like the spiral motif, and so I wanted to learn this particular spiral. This is not mine, I wish it was. This is the technique, it's called the Perigord Technique, and it's a technique that comes out of France that's been kept secret for forever. It's been secret. And there was a woman from Denmark that traveled there and learned the technique and was given the blessing of the people there to go ahead and write a book and share it with the world. So unfortunately she's in Denmark and she's not traveling and teaching, and so I actually did contact her and asked her about her teaching schedule, and she said, well, you're welcome to come here. And I didn't have the funds to do that. So I did buy her book, $100, not a cheap book. But it's, I'm guessing part of it is because the technique is so unique. And so I am proposing to learn this technique from the model and from this book, and then it also comes with a DVD, and which I have out because I've been watching it. And so I've followed her recommendation, and she recommends starting with a simple form. She calls it a simple technique, and that one's out of Burkina in Western Africa. Let me tell you, it's not easy. She calls it the simple technique. It's not simple. But I did, I planned to use willow, which is what this is, and I was, last spring, I was gifted a willow garden by a fellow basket maker who's not weaving anymore. She has carpal tunnel, and so she gifted me with this willow, and so part of my proposition was that I wanted to use willow and use the Perigord technique. Well, after I harvested the willow in November, I learned that it has to dry for a year. Oh shoot, I was gonna use that. So I contacted the woman that made this, and she said to use, that you could use round reed, and so she recommended the kind to use. And so this is what the reed looks like. It's rattan is the other name for it. It grows in Asia, and it's the jungles, the trees out there, it's this vine, an invasive vine that grows over everything, and it grows like 100 feet long. And so people go out and they pull it. It's got thorns all over it. They take the skins outside, and then they put it through machines to get different widths. So this is a number 6, which is a wider one. So that's what she recommended using. So that is what I'm using. And so I started with a simple technique the other night, and this is what I came up with, and I absolutely love it. It's really challenging. It's hard on the hands. It takes quite a bit of strength to do it, but you know, it could go any which way. I actually like all of the ways, including this one. So I'm really, really happy that I got this one, because at least I got part of the technique. Because what she said is the hand position is similar in this one as with the Perigord. So I finished this one, and then in the book it also said that you could use weeping willow branches, which actually you don't weave with those very often. I've only seen one item made out of that. I'm not sure if it's that it gets real brittle. I'll let you know after, you know, you learn about the material once you use it. But it did say that you could use the weeping willow branches, so I sent an email out to my friends, and Nancy and her husband Dwayne, who's a former forester, brought some for me, so she has a bundle in her car to give me. So I'm actually going to try this simple technique with that. It might be more simple with a more pliable material. This was kind of hard to work with. And then, so I did start, and I just have to do a lot of, what I like about basketry is, so I'm a holistic nurse, and so that's kind of the belief in body, mind, and spirit, putting that all together for health. So what I like about basketry is it really incorporates that body, mind, spirit, so it's a very active, I'm getting up and going down and pulling and using, you know, all my muscles, so that's the body. The mind is any natural material brings its own challenges with it, and there's always problem solving, like, what am I gonna do now? How am I gonna work with this? So that's the mind part. And then the spirit part is that there's always an element of chaos as you're bringing, whether it's a basket or a sculpture together. And so there's always this feeling of like, can I do this? Can I like actually bring this from chaos into form? And so it takes a fair amount of self-confidence and self-talk to kind of keep going through the process. So I did start, so this is the Perigord technique, so I did bring this over. This is the beginning. So I'm so pleased that I'm getting something that looks like a, you know, that looks like that spiral. There's a long way to go. This form, it takes 120 pieces of this. So we only have 9 in here now. No, I think there's 13 in here. So I got a long way to go, but I felt really, really hopeful that I'm gonna get there. And then the other thing I brought is a couple tools of the trade. So what I use, I always soak the reed in the bucket to get it nice and pliable, and that's with any material, it has to be pliable. And then I just use this for cutting, and then I use this to be sticking the extra ones in to make space in it. And then the other like really critical accoutrements, this is great if anybody hasn't heard of this, working hands. It's really, really good, because what happens when my hands are in water, they crack. It's harder to do basket weaving in the winter, and so these actually will heal it pretty much overnight. So I'm a true like subscriber to this. And then the other thing I brought is liquid bandage, because once you do have a crack and it hasn't healed, to cover it over at least for a little while is a really helpful thing. So this technique, the other thing I didn't mention, this technique comes out of, I contacted a friend of mine that speaks French because I couldn't figure out the name, but it's called doudonia. Has anybody heard of that? Doudonia in France, that's the area that it comes with. So basketry crosses all cultures and goes back to the beginning of time, and I love that. I love working with the natural fibers and working with some of that history. The basketry, doing the technique, any basketry actually takes a lot of concentration. When I was working in my arts collective, I've told everybody, when I'm like in the zone, don't talk to me, don't bother me, don't tell me you like what I'm doing, don't just, you know, leave me alone, because I really have to focus. And pretty much the key is when I have headphones on, people know that. Well, this one day, this woman came up to me, and I thought I was at a point where I was pretty good with, I think I could chat a little bit while we're talking. So I was working with one of these pieces and kind of winding it around, and she was chatting with me, and I was like, oh yeah, yeah. And I'm like, oh, this is why I can't talk. And I broke the piece. And because I'm always feeling the pliability of the material and how much can I work with it. And so it's really, in closing, it's really great to work at the Kaddatz because I'm down in the basement. There's no windows.
No one can find you.
Nobody's bothering me, and I crank up the music and I just go and I just really focus. And so I'm really just happy to be here, and we'll see. Hopefully this will turn into something like that. It'll end up being bigger, but so we'll see. So thanks for coming tonight.
Very cool,
Can
thanks.
you, we have some people here I think that will appreciate this. Can you explain what you were starting to tell me the other day about the Kaddatz?
What was I saying?
I mean the Kirkbride.
The Kirkbride.
Yeah.
Yeah, so about the show?
Yeah, and what your connection is with what your interest was and how that.
Yeah, so the Minnesota, and I think this is what you're getting at.
Yeah.
So the Minnesota History Center
Yeah,
has
yeah.
decided to follow me as an artist, and part of that is they asked me, once in a while they'll celebrate some of their acquisitions, and so they said that they would do that for mine, and they asked if I would actually curate an exhibit for them where my baskets are in conversation with their collection. And so what I'm doing is looking at all the things in their collection and thinking about how we could create a conversation. And so one of the things, the title of the show is going to be something like Past and Present Post-Traumatic Stress Disorder. And that's part of, I live with post-traumatic stress disorder, and that's part of what the lecture is about next week. And for any people that know this, like the history in occupational therapy is that like when the soldiers came back from the war with the PTSD, they would use basketry to help heal and bring back. So as part of this exhibit, we're going to have a part on PTSD and mental illness. We're going to have a part on my family history because my family history is in Duluth. And then we've also decided to do a section on state hospitals. And we've decided we'd really like to focus on the Kirkbride. And knowing that I've been here with the Hinge Arts, and then the head of our collective, Jess Reyes, she's also been a Hinge artist. So I'm gonna be going down, if I finish this, to the historical museum and looking for pictures of the Kirkbride, see what I can find with the OT. They don't think they have any pictures of basketry, but I'm sure they were doing that. In my research, in the lecture I'll talk about the Kirkbride, and in my research it said that the Kirkbride was at the forefront of OT treatment.
Yep.
And that was they were doing basketry. So the question is, will I be able to find any pictures? She doesn't think I will be able to, but.
And our local
Experts out there,
museum.
can you help her?
Yeah.
So Gene and Maxine are
Yeah.
with Friends of the Kirkbride,
Oh.
so definitely talk to them.
I wish I could have turned around and talked
Yeah,
to you.
but-
I tried to keep turning.
I was
all
trying to
the
see
way
what you
around.
were showing. but
Oh,
I
I'll
just
show you
interrupt.
individually.
But I would like to put one thing in there.
Yeah.
You're talking about cracked fingers.
Yeah.
When I was in construction for X number of years,
Yeah.
and we used to use super glue to glue it first.
Yeah.
And sometimes black electrician's tape
electrical tape.
is for any cut or anything.
Thank you for that. So I brought, well, see, look, this is getting low, and I wasn't
Yep.
sure what I was gonna do, so.
But that'll put the crack together so it won't bleed and all that good stuff.
Oh, that's-
We do have tons of pictures of the Kirkbride, but I do not recall seeing any baskets.
Yeah, that's what do you
There's-
work over there, or do you, okay, cause I suppose somebody that worked.
There was, this isn't baskets, but Kirk Williams, who's an artist here, one of the activities he did with patients when he was a employee there was crumpling up cardboard tubes into different shapes and then wrapping them in colorful yarn.
Oh.
And that was one of, I think we have one of them here somewhere, so I'll try to find it. Well, that's a replica that we made like in the corner there, but they were smaller, the ones that he actually did.
Yeah.
So him or Chris at the museum, Chris Schulke from the Otter Tail Historical Society, and then Maxine and Jean would probably be able to lead you down some kind of rabbit trail to find that stuff.
Yeah, and we know, of course, everybody knows that it's been, in the news and up in the air about what's gonna happen, and so we just wanted to bring attention to
Yep.
the Kirkbride. It won't be a political statement or anything, but it'll just be, this is one of our beautiful facilities that we had here, and in the lecture I talk about the Kirkbride plan and the psychiatrist that developed it, and I talk a little bit about that. That's next week.
Wonderful. This is why we do the residency program, because there's always a different story that artists find about that relates to them.